Welcome to an all-new Lay It Omni. Allow me to lay it on you. Hello everyone, Markiplier here, and welcome to 5 Nights at Being Censored and Controlled by the Government at a Global Scale.
Was that the bite of 87?
My name is Omni and I'll be your captain on today's journey. Today's video is the part 4 of my running series on the fight on censorship, updating you guys on how in just the past 2 to 3 weeks, the world has been aggressively trying to control your time on the World Wide Web. And every single day so far, it's been getting worse. So here's what's currently going on. The UK government is now threatening companies that are now promoting VPN. Mastercard and other payment processors are currently at war with gaming companies like Steam and itch.io. Apparently, YouTube is being pushed to promote quote-unquote approved UK broadcasters like the BBC, essentially controlling the narrative of what you see and don't see on YouTube. And people are already reporting that VPNs, their last line of defense, are starting to get blocked on sites like YouTube, aka the one you're watching right now. So by the end of this video, you will understand how censorship as of right now is being deployed financially, legally, and algorithmically. I'll tell you what it means for you, and most importantly, I will tell you how you guys can fight back. There's the boy. He's busy chewing his feet, I think. Huh? We are here to keep your cortisol levels down. In return, we just ask that you guys like the video and subscribe. We'll continue to be your emotional support YouTuber, with the goal of keeping you guys in the know of what's happening without letting your stress levels go too crazy. So you guys know the drill. Sit back, relax, put your feet up, and yeah, allow me to lay it on you. So as I said before, your control over the internet is currently being invaded on 3 separate fronts. You've got the legal front, the financial front, and the algorithmic front. The legal front, from what I've been telling you guys over the past couple of days, comes from UK's Online Safety Act and the United States Kids Online Safety Act, also known as KOSA. Essentially, the governments are using their power to introduce bills and regulations under the guise of saving the kids to wiggle themselves into your privacy and make sure that Big Brother is watching. Companies are either bailing out entirely now or aggressively putting out systems, usually run with AI. This includes facial scans, credit checks, and ID uploads. Hilariously enough, okay, people are already getting creative and finding ways to get around this. Naturally, the response was just use a VPN, which was working for a little bit, okay? Subscriptions for VPN services were going up like 1,400, 1,500%, okay? Everyone's grabbing a VPN. But UK users are now reporting that VPN traffic is being detected and blocked in many places, but most importantly, specifically on platforms like YouTube. Reddit threads and Twitter X posts are full of complaints that videos won't load or accounts get flagged when using said VPN. This Reddit post as of yesterday ago titled "The Internet is Genuinely Dead," and it shows a screenshot that says VPN/proxy detected. To continue, turn off your VPN proxy. This will allow YouTube to locate the best content. That's like an officer telling you to cut off your camera so that he can safely guide you to the nearest prison. It reads, "I just got this for the first time. I live in UK, so I don't want to submit ID. It is so sad that the internet has breached this level of privacy. It used to be a place where people could express their views in real life, could express it here, but now all of that is gone. It is no longer autonomous. We need a new autonomous space." So the problem is that content's not just being blocked, but also ways to kind of protect yourself are now also being removed. So this is easy to understand, okay, and wrap your head around. All right, the governments do not always have your best interest at heart, okay? I don't think I needed to tell you that for you to know that. What you might not know is the second front that censorship is currently being attacked on, and that is a financial level. How can control and censorship be asserted onto you at a financial level? Through the world's largest payment processes, Visa and Mastercard, of course. For those of you guys that don't know, Visa and Mastercard are not just credit cards, okay? They are known as payment processors. They're essentially the middleman between your bank, where your money is stored and kept, and the merchant, where your money is about to go. And they're globally accepted. If they decide not to process payments for your platform, then your platform is effectively dead. I know what you're thinking. Okay, Omni, why would Visa and Mastercard just stop working with companies? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Insert Exhibit A, Australia's Collective Shout. So for those of you guys who don't know, Collective Shout is an anti-P advocacy group, okay? They're a grassroots movement challenging the objectification of women and sexualization of girls in media, advertising, and popular culture. Sounds good, right? Like, well, who needs to hear more, right? We're protecting women, right? Yes, exactly. It's the same pattern, okay? We're protecting kids, protecting women. Somehow we're protecting a certain kind of group, but by doing so, we're also pushing and enforcing certain narratives. Collective Shout essentially sent open letters to payment providers Mastercard, Visa, and PayPal and requested that they stop servicing storefronts like Steam and itch.io. And it worked. Steam and itch.io began removing and delisting over tens of thousands of games from their server. Let's be clear, some of the games on these websites were problematic, okay, and justified in its removal. However, the problem, similar to the government, is that content that was not illegal and creators from marginalized communities were disproportionately impacted. People who were LGBTQ or who were part of an indie game were just getting caught strays left and right, and they weren't even a part of the whole illegal process of protecting women. As MasterCard started to lean on companies like Steam and Valve, this then provided a recent response from MasterCard themselves. MasterCard has not evaluated any game or required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms, contrary to media reports and allegations. Our payment network follows standards based on a rule of law. Put simply, we allow all lawful purchases on our network. At the same time, we must require merchants to have appropriate controls to ensure MasterCards cannot be used for unlawful purchases, including illegal adult content. However, it has since been community noted, and it says both Steam and itch have stated their removal of adult content came from pressure by payment processors, including MasterCard. Furthermore, MasterCard and other payment processors have a documented history of refusing service to Japanese retailers over legal adult content. So MasterCard essentially getting caught lying. Here's another important tweet about this, okay? Kiwi Farm says Kotaku has received a response from Valve confirming that payment processors and acquiring banks cited MasterCard network rules as justification for banning adult games. When Valve explained what was happening, they pointed to MasterCard's Rule 5.12.7, which forbids transactions that, quote, damage MasterCard's brand or goodwill, which you guys can tell is incredibly vague and also intentionally vague. It essentially allows MasterCard to cut ties with anything that they think, quote, hurts the brand, end quote, no court ruling required. So what you guys are seeing is censorship, but there's no legislation, okay? There's no government, there's no ruling, there's no law. Developers and players are fighting back, right? There's petitions and coordinated calls to Visa and MasterCard and pushing for clearer policies. Apparently people are blowing up Visa and MasterCard's phones over this situation, but the precedent is set. If your game, art, or media can be deemed as quote-unquote brand damaging, MasterCard is giving those games the ejecto cito cuzzo button, even if it doesn't actually fall in line with what it is that they said that they were trying to do. So that's legal control, okay, the government, and then that's financial control, okay, like the payment processors. But the scariest of them all, in my opinion, is the freaking algorithmic control. That's right, the all-powerful, all-seeing, never quite understood algorithm that none of us actually understand and have been trying to learn since the beginning of time. The algorithm essentially works in the background and decides what it believes it is best for you to see. Twitter's For You page, there's YouTube's recommended feed, there's Instagram's Explore tab. The algorithm, as you guys know, is designed to suggest content that it thinks you might like so that you guys can spend hours and hours doom scrolling and brain rotting in order to stay on their platform and never leave. What you might not realize is that the algorithm can also be used as a very, very powerful and covert way to censor what you can see or cannot see on the internet. And this is the exact kind of censorship that is now already being put in play as of this week. Before I show you guys that, you have to understand that there's two types of censorship, okay? There's restrictive and then there's directive. Restrictive censorship is the one that everybody knows, okay? It's when things get removed or ejected or taken out and you can no longer see content that was already there. It's the suppression of content that has already been created, and they're saying, nah, we don't want you to see these channels, we don't want you to see these Twitter accounts, the removal of certain games, and also the removal of VPN. However, the very, very more dangerous and kind of unseen censorship, in my opinion, is directive censorship. What directive censorship does is that instead of kind of taking things away, it pushes things in front of you and kind of advertise it as this is the content that you should be watching. Usually this content is government approved or culturally approved. And the terrifying part is that it's either hard or if not impossible to know that it's happening because we don't have access to these companies' algorithms. They are impossible to see, and the problem is that it shapes your perception online. Because the content and themes are being shoved down your throat, you start to normalize it instead of question it. And when you stop asking questions, that's when they've won. It's super freaking scary because it literally blurs the line between recommendations and propaganda, which then later makes it impossible to tell where one starts and the other ends. So an example of this is Ofcom now pushing BBC and UK-approved broadcasters into YouTube recommendation. With Ofcom pressuring YouTube to prioritize UK public service broadcasters such as BBC, ITV, and Channel 4, they can essentially control certain types of narratives because they're putting out the news broadcasters that they deem as correct or right. Justification is under the guise of quote-unquote preserving British culture, as young people around the world are basically abandoning TV for YouTube. But this sets a precedent that if regulators can dictate what algorithms boost, they can effectively program the narrative you're exposed to without ever banning competing voices outright. You don't see the UK or the United States trying to push me off there, right? What they're saying is, nah, okay, I think people are going to YouTube and watching people like Omni. I don't know if I like all of that free independent thought. So since TV is dying, let's get these people pushed onto YouTube, make it come to the top of people's front page, and make it so people like us who are trying to tell objective things and are not bought or paid out by Ofcom to essentially drown in the crowd of sea of information. The important distinction between TV and YouTube was that you came to YouTube to, basically talk to me. One person looking at information objectively, but people on TV are failing, so now they're coming to you to YouTube as well and saying, hey, I know you're watching all of these guys, but here we are. Welcome to the party. We're 15 years late, but now you guys can be boosted on the algorithm and watch us here as well, which essentially explains directive censorship. Okay, it's not about like what you just can't see. It's about also what you're being told to be seeing. And none of this is conspiracy theory. Okay, everything that I'm telling you right now is what's actually occurring. Okay, there's articles that's being said out the mouths of the United States government and the UK governments. Okay, there's proof everywhere. You can literally Google everything I said and cross-reference it, and you'll find the same answer. So guys at home, what can you do about the powers that be? Okay, how do you fight back? The way you do that is by spreading awareness. Awareness equals people wake up. And when people wake up, people get mad at the freaking lullaby that the powers that be have been playing for decades. Even if you're one of those people right now who are watching this video and don't 100 subscribe to what's being said, you can't deny that there is a lot at stake here. The scale of control is growing and the transparency that we can see on their side is shrinking. Being on the wrong side of the present, which is eventually going to be history, can be massively damaging. And the more that this information becomes widely known, the better we can have conversations about why it's so dangerous and figure out actual real solutions, like how you can actually parent your child from the internet. It's crazy to me, guys, and I don't know if you've been following the news, that you have these payment processors over here bending over backwards so they can remove hentai games and things with like LGBTQ, right? Removing all these little tiny games. At the same time, just yesterday, Lil Tay, okay, this little girl who just turned from 17 to 18, using their payment process, essentially made millions of dollars using OnlyFans. And guess what? The pictures that were probably taken, okay, more than likely the images of her that were posted were probably when she was still 17, because they was already locked and loaded in the chamber. So we've got literally tens of thousands of men lining up at the 17 about to turn 18 thing like it's a freaking grand opening for a shop, bro. Oh my God. Here's my rant, because you guys know I always got a rant. Okay, I got a rant because I got a lot of things to say about this. The lack of consistency and transparency shows that the rules set in place are just not universal. They are being used to protect their bottom line, aka the companies and themselves, which involves removing your control. We literally have to push back, or otherwise we'll be ran over in the long run. And it's strange to me that these entities want to enforce control and see everything that we're doing while simultaneously hiding behind their own screens and intentions. These companies' algorithms, guys, they're not open source. Okay, we can't just see how they're pushing information in front of us. The government legislation, those behind closed meetings between lobbyists, they're not being recorded and monitored. This is not a two-way street. This is not a give and take. This is an intentional power grab, a creep over companies and legislations and governments that already have power over us, and they're just making it wider and wider. And I feel like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, right? But if this does happen, if it does work, if we do allow them to step over us without any kind of resistance, then other countries are going to be like, ooh, this is great. It worked over there and it worked over there. So we're just going to copy and paste because if the UK can do it and the United States can do it, then well, hell, then we can do it as well. And once that happens, guess what? It becomes the new normal. And then they try to figure out in a year or two how to do it again and again and again and again and again. Anyway, that's all I have for this episode of Lay It Omni. You've just been laid. Moral of the story. Gotta keep fighting. I'm sorry if I got a little bit heated at the end of this video. It's wacky. It's weird. It's crazy to literally be alive during times and watching all of this stuff happen in real freaking time. I would not be surprised over the next few weeks these steps continue to get worse and worse. And this is not doom, okay? I'm not out here trying to fear monger you guys. Again, it's about waking up and letting people know that something's happening right now, bro. And if we don't let people know, bro, then there's nothing we can do about it. If you made it to the end of the video, drop the like, okay? It helps, okay? Subscribe if you guys haven't already. Share it with somebody. Share it with some people who aren't paying attention, okay? Even if you think they are paying attention, make sure that they know exactly what's happening. There's a playlist here where I've talked about everything that's been happening over the past 2 weeks so far that you guys can watch. It's in the description below. It's like 2 to 3 videos. And again, I will continue to keep you guys updated as this war on censorship continues, because stay safe on these cybersecurity streets, because these streets aren't safe. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. You guys take it easy. Peace.